going to talk about sports and food, of course. I won't get too saucy. That's already been taken care of. So I am Jennifer Striepling. I'm the Chief Development Officer of Walk-Ons, and we're going to talk about our 6-month sprint of our evolution of the brand. Fun facts about me: born and raised in Chicago. My dad was a sheet metal worker and a hockey coach, so summers were for stocking jobs. Most kids were collecting coins. I was collecting punch-outs from the electrical box and pieces of drywall and wood. Blackhawks fan, Cubs fan, so trying to learn patience. It's not working. And then moved around a little bit. I've been fortunate to work for some great brands. Darden, ran my own business, Bloomin' Brands, and now Walk-Ons, and previously Papa John's. So I'm very familiar with the cross-country move. So are my children. They use that to their advantage for bribery. We're going to talk a little bit about Walk-Ons. Hopefully most of you are familiar with us, but we'll tell a little story. And then I'll take you through the journey that the team and I have been on for the last few months.
This brand was really created through grit, tenacity, being relentless, and having a vision for wanting to create a place for everyone to celebrate their underdog stories. As most people know, I only played 7 minutes my senior year as a walk-on at LSU, but Walk-Ons was born 21 years ago in the shadows of Tiger Stadium just outside LSU's campus, and it was supposed to be a bar that had really good food. Here we are 21 years later and almost at 100 locations, and honestly, we're nowhere near stopping.
So Brandon Landry, our founder, we have 80 units, mostly focused on Texas to Florida, Louisiana being, and Texas being our heavy growth areas, up to Indiana. And then we have a unit in Arizona as well as in Harrah's and Las Vegas. So when we started on this journey, we started something called Protecting the W. We weren't going to sacrifice on these 4 things. So when we had passionate debates about how we were going to go forward on pieces of equipment, food, how it was going to be processed or even designed, we weren't going to sacrifice on these 4 things: the quality, the consistency, enhancing the guest experience, and of course increasing margins. I hear that's kind of important. So we focused on that. So then at the end of the project, the kitchen didn't look like this after we were done. Why design a new prototype? So when I joined the brand about 20 months ago, I went and met with every single franchisee. I went to every unit, and I asked 2 questions. If you had a blank piece of paper, knowing what you know now, what would you do again, and what would you not do again? And what are our strengths and what are our opportunities as a brand? At Dual Path, my friends in marketing also started a brand study. We know we're family friendly. We know we're a sports bar. We know that we have an in-scratch kitchen, but is that it? Is that what we're focused on? What is it? What can we build from and go from there? So we laid out our strengths and our opportunities, and based on everyone from the franchisee owner to the managing partner to the bartender to the busser. I talked to everyone under the sun. I don't think I had a voice by my 10th week. I think I sounded like Minnie Mouse, but it was a great journey to understand and kind of look at each of the locations that we had built and how they operate. And one of the things that stuck out to me is this is a really big building. This is 2.5 acres, 11,000 square feet. It is a beast to operate. I've been part of other brands that were more fine dining, so it generated that larger footprint, but as the panel mentioned this morning, real estate, no pun intended, doesn't grow on trees. So with the data that we gathered, we also dove into the toast data of our POS. When are we on a wait? How many times a day are we on a wait? What days are we on a wait? What's our average party size? That is something that historically just hadn't been advanced. There was no technology, there was no data. It was more of just whatever the franchisee wanted to do. The other feedback that we got, not only from our guests and the brand study from marketing, but from our own franchisees and the regulars, is when I pull up to a building, am I buying a jersey, a pair of shoes, am I getting a haircut, am I buying furniture? That's my favorite. What's happening inside there? Because they just didn't understand. They didn't make the connection to a restaurant. And then you go in the back of the house, and our poor fry cook, everything's manual. So when we opened the restaurant 21 years ago, the very first one in Tiger Stadium, the way we cooked and the way we prepped, everything was from scratch, is how we do it today. which was amazing, impressive to me, and scary all at the same time. So watch it till it floats. We should have had t-shirts made, was how a lot of the things were cooked out of the fryer, and the grill, they're playing Tetris, right? So there was a lot of opportunity, but at the same time, the guests still loved our food. So it goes back to those 4 components of DNA that we weren't going to sacrifice on. Then what we're all dealing with, this was before the tariffs, I did this slide. So this was as of a few weeks ago, but all the arrows are going up, right? It's nothing that you guys aren't aware of and that we're not dealing with every day. So it goes back to what we heard this morning of those relationships with your vendors, those relationships with your GCs, which I'll get into more later, but everything just keeps going up. So over this time period, if you were to add up all of these arrows, you're at a 338% increase. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this slide has saved me in many board meetings and leadership meetings when they tell me, well, 5 years ago it was cost this. I had a slide that had bread and milk and gas on it, but I thought that was a bad career move, so I just stayed with construction. Sorry, the last slide should say November. So June through November was our 6-month journey, where the team and I really didn't sleep a whole lot. I've had people say there's no way you could have evolved this brand in 6 months. When you work 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, you can. And it's not just development. It's marketing, it's ops, it's training, it's those vendors, partners, it's those general contractors. So we started on the equipment research because we have the menu, we know what works, we know what sells, we know what we're really good at. Now, how can we improve the consistency? So we started with the kitchen layout and the equipment. Again, 11,000 square feet, and almost half of that was the kitchen. We had anywhere from 200 to 300 seats in that 11,000 square feet. Again, the franchisee had some liberties there. Then we started laying out the floor plan. We're a sports bar. We're family friendly. We're going to put that bar in the center, and we're going to open the dining room wide open. Structural engineer really appreciated that design move. And I didn't want any columns blocking the view to the TVs. We have 2 front dining rooms, so if you do have children or you want to be a part of the action but you want a little less action, you can be up there, and you can also kind of close those off for small parties, and then of course the patio. We partnered with Chipman Design Architects out of Chicago. They also went on the road, looked at all of our brands, looked at the research that we had done, asked questions. They really kind of dove in, and as you'll see in the next few slides, they really knocked it out of the park. But at the same time, I kept them focused. Even though they are architects, I focused them on the design and brought ACS architects, who I've worked with on many prototypes in my past, to focus on taking those Disney renderings and making them real and yet cost effective. And then GCs, we have 8 GCs that we've worked with in our past. Every time we did a set, we had them put bids together and said, we got a pipeline coming. We need you guys to tell us what should we be doing based on all of those arrows going up, and what does it look like? Equipment testing. I am no longer eating until future notice. We ran every piece of equipment, every food, and taste tested it. We had Brandon and the board out there and literally did the Pepsi challenge. We gave them 2 shrimp and grits or catfish platter and said, tell me which one is on the new equipment and tell me which one's on the old equipment. The new equipment won every time because it was consistent, it was hot, the presentation was there, because you add that technology and you take out that manual interpretation, but you still have that quality and that consistency, which is what we are striving for. Part of that was we were locked in a warehouse in North Carolina for 4 weeks. We set up that kitchen. We had a general contractor with us. We had ops and training there. And then we pulled out some of our team members out of the restaurant. I wanted not only the trainers and the people that do this every day, but I wanted people that had experience 3 weeks, 3 days, 13 years in the restaurant. You've been doing walk-ons for this long. I'm going to train you for 45 minutes, and we're going to go and run what Wesley Chapel did on Saturday night or what Kendall, Florida did on Friday night. And I will tell you, at the end of the 4 weeks, not only was the food quality more consistent, we cut the ticket time in half. Our average ticket time today is 17 to 21 minutes. We're now at 9 minutes flat. Not only is the ticket time cost. We all know what that does to table turns, and then there's that revenue thing that everyone keeps harping about. So that helps. That mock kitchen testing, I will tell you, was huge. The design part is fun, it's great, it's ooh wow, but people are coming for the food and the service, and if we can set them up for success through that back of the house and that technology, it's a win. Then we got to the fun part, right? We started with the interior and exterior renderings. We wanted that alignment across all departments, across some of our franchisees. We leaned on our FAC. You know, what do you see? What do you not see? Outside the table thickness needs to be a little more. They were actually really happy, and it kind of started to show what that brand identity looks like. We got into the nitty-gritty on the FF&E specifications. We did rounds of pricing with our partners. We did rounds of pricing on the equipment. We looked at bulk, we looked at commitments, and just ran pricing with those GCs as well. And then we continued to fine-tune the equipment through testing with the vendors, and then took those specifications and started putting them into the construction documents. How many amps do we need? What's the HVAC need to be, as we started to lay that out. Getting all the way to the final. So historically, for 11,000 square feet, if you were to build a historical walk-ons today, was almost $7 or $8 million all in, not including the land, that's just the building. Now all in, we're at 3.9 million, just for the building. We're at 5,500 square feet. So we cut it dramatically, we have 246 seats. It's a game changer for our franchisees and for the brand, so much so that we're gonna start building corporate locations for the first time since 2016. Building the team, those people that I locked in a warehouse for 4 weeks. This is one of my favorite quotes by Herb Brooks, who was the head coach of the 1980 Olympic team. I'm not looking for the best players, I'm looking for the right ones. There is no way in hell we would have done this in 6 months if I did not have partners from my past or people that were willing to go the distance because they knew where we needed to be and why we needed to be there. And I can't say enough to those people that have given 6 months of 24/7 along with their day job to be able to put this prototype together. I'm very, very fortunate to have those people around me every day. We all know who our partners need to be. The earlier you bring them in, the faster you can go, right? Because again, you have that experience, you have that bench, you have that roster of people that have done this before. You got to hold each other accountable. My team is allowed to tell me no most of the time. But at the same time, I got to be held accountable where they're like, Jen, this is going to add $5,000, or Jen, this is going to add 3 weeks. Everyone needs to be held accountable on what you're going for, and you just go for it the first time. We all know the first few that you build, there's going to be an evolution there. And with that, I'll give you the gator. So 5,500 square feet. It is the ultimate guest experience when it comes to watching sports. Acoustic was a big part of it. That was one of the #1 complaints when we made the tour around to the franchisees is I want to hear the game, but I also want to be able to talk about the game or talk with my family and understand what's hearing. So that acoustics was a big focus. The games, obviously Super Bowl and Stanley Cup, those are on the speakers, depending on the market, but there's also days where the games are on and the music's playing, and so you want to still have that balance with acoustics. The benefits of the Gator, real estate options. We are no longer tied to dirt. We can now go into inline, we can go to end caps, and we can work with those landlords on what our work letter needs to be and what the options are. So it gives us much more growth opportunities than historically with, you know, almost 3 acres of land and an 11,000 square foot building. And, you know, the utilities are an opportunity. No one's going to trade school to be a plumber and electrician. It'd be really great if they were. That'd help us all out. But unfortunately, no one's doing that. Labor savings, I talked about reduction of ticket time. We were able to cut 4 bodies in the back of the house with the space reduction and the introduction of technology as well. It now looks like a restaurant, at least in my opinion, and the opinion of the guests. So if I hear anyone's going to buy furniture, I'm going to lose my mind. But we now know that you're going into a restaurant. Mentioned reduction of ticket times and then the lower investment with that. The team was bored, so somebody went to the Atlanta Braves that I know from a previous life and said, hey, you have an empty spot in the Battery. And if any of you aren't familiar with the Battery, it's the baseball park where the Atlanta Braves play. They've literally made a city. So there's restaurants and shops and apartments and townhouses. If you haven't been, it's really cool. We are now going to open in the Battery July 15th before the All-Star game, because why wouldn't the All-Star game be this year? So we are under construction. Fun fact, this is 3,500 square feet. So we haven't opened a gator yet at the 5,500 square feet, and this one's going to be the first one to open at 3,500 square feet. There is probably a picture somewhere in the office of me, and my team is throwing darts on a regular basis. But again, ops and training, everyone's been involved, and we have almost our full menu. We'll have a game day menu like we do at Burbank, which is the one by Tiger Stadium, and College Station, which is by Texas A&M, just to be able to keep up with the demand. It seats 119, so it's cozy. We've had some historical team members come in and kind of walk around during construction and be like, this is it? Yep, this is it, 3,500 square feet. So we're very excited about the partnership with the Braves. Survival techniques. If you go through this, I highly recommend taking up boxing or drinking or Starbucks or something. Not that I do any of that, but I highly recommend it just for sanity purposes. Questions? Do we have time for questions?
We have time for one question.
Sure. Nope, that's a great question. Yes, so introduce technology, and then we actually went down, again, why I'm not eating, we went down to our commissary that we were using for some other specialty items like our gumbo and things like that, and said, this is how we need the chicken to be cut. This is how we were cutting chicken off the bone, we were cutting meat off the bone, and so now as part of the test with the equipment, which is why we've been stress testing so much, is not only on the equipment itself, but how it's coming from our commissary partners, because we don't want it to feel like you're getting it from a gas station. Yes. That's a great question. So we have 2 franchisees right now that have upwards of 6+ units, and we have retro packages that we also put together, because that was my biggest concern of, they're going to be like, great, you got a shiny new toy. I got 10 of these. What do you want me to do? So we came up with retro packages for the back of the house. We're working on retro packages for the front of the house, but to your point, all they really care about right now is the back of the house. So we're going to see that installed by the end of the month in 4 locations. But we've already introduced the commissary items into those locations in advance, so we can start looking at that data and then project an ROI with commissary and then with the new technology in the back of the house. No, sir. The items that we have coming out of those commissary partners that I mentioned with the previous question, where that's coming the pre-carved chicken and the pre-carved meat, they already have those items. Does that make sense?
I hate to be the bad guy, but I want to keep this train on time. But Jennifer will be around, so if you guys have any questions, you can grab a hold of her. Thank you so much, Jennifer.